Have you ever wondered whether wearing casual clothes affects your chances of being selected as a groupmate by others at CUHK? We are as curious as you, and that's why we conducted an experiment to see the results. Damhorst states that dress is a systematic means of transmission of information about the wearer. Different types of dress code represent the symbolic meanings of various social ideas, such as social class, cultural identity, attitude towards comfort, etc. Besides, people judge others by what they wear. An experiment conducted by Hanover and Kuchen used insights into how people make quick judgments of strangers and varying in dress. The result also reveals that people discriminate against women not dressing in code. The above studies have aroused our interest in the effects of dressing. Specifically, there is a unique culture in CUHK where students like to wear their t-shirts from orientation camps or other student associations, which are also known as Toiti, shorts and slippers to attending classes. It is a very casual dress code and representative of CUHK culture, as students from other universities tend to dress up when attending lectures. According to our observation, such a dress code is more popular among students who live in hostels in CUHK or who are a part of a student body. They usually are busy with various non-academic activities and live near lecture theaters, so they just wear casual clothing for convenience. We are interested in understanding how this distinctive casual clothing style of CUHK students affect impression formation and how such impressions affect students' chances of being selected as a groupmate.
Our experiment aimed to answer the research question, does casual wear affect our chances of forming a group at CUHK? Our hypothesis was that a more casual outfit would make it less likely for a student to be selected as a groupmate. A total of 111 CUHK students participated in the study. Their age ranged from 17 to 26 years old, and their majors were from all faculties of CUHK, with a quarter of the students from the social sciences faculty and 1/5 from the medicine faculty. 2 surveys were distributed randomly in order to test the hypothesis. 51 participants were assigned to the control condition, of which 28 were female and 23 were male. 60 students participated in the experimental condition, where 40 participants were female, 19 male, and 1 unwilling to disclose. The survey included a scenario in which the students were asked to form a group of 2 students for a project that weighs 40% of the final grade. It proceeded to show them photos of 4 students who were interested in forming a group with them. For each student, separately, participants were asked to rate them on a scale from 1 to 5 for likeliness to form a group with them, helpfulness, friendliness, and casualness of clothing based on the photo. In the second part, all photos of the 4 students were shown again, and the participants had to rank their preference to form a group with them. The first 2 photos of student A and B were control variables which did not change between the control condition and the experimental condition. Student A was a female student, while student B was a male student. In the experimental group, student C and student D were shown in informal clothing, while the control group saw them in normal clothing. Again, student C was a female student, while student D was a male student. We have used a t-test for the manipulation check on our independent variable, the casualness of the students' clothing. There's a significant difference in dress casualness of both student C and D in the pictures shown to the control group and the experimental group. It can be concluded that we have successfully manipulated the casualness of students C and D between the control group and the experimental grouping. To test the hypothesis, one more t-test is used. A significant difference is also found in the likelihood to be chosen as a groupmate of student C in the experimental group and control group. For student D, however, there is no significant difference in the likelihood to be chosen as a groupmate of student D in the experimental group, which can be further explained in the limitation part. We have studied the correlation between one's dress and likelihood to be chosen as a groupmate. Results show that the less casual the participant thinks student C and D dress, the more likely he would be chosen as a groupmate, which supports our hypothesis. Finally, we have generated a bar chart for the ranking of the 4 students. More participants ranked students C and D as their first choice instead of the control group or the experimental group.
Now let's move on to the discussion part. The above results significantly supported our hypothesis that the more casual a CUHK student dresses, the less likely he or she will be selected as a groupmate. This may imply our target population, CU students, may be less interested in choosing people with very casual clothing as their group members. Fernham, Chan, and Wilson mentions that people make judgments in terms of competence, confidence, and credibility in the first 12 seconds of interaction, affected by the clothes worn. In addition, Agai and his colleagues suggested that clothing brings a clear communicative message and correlates with personality traits both in terms of self-assessment and assessment by others. Since group forming is usually a transient process, we generally rely on the more easily observed traits like the clothing for our judgment. Besides, in another experiment done by Cocom, university professors' informal attire are perceived as more credible than those in less formal dressing, showing that formality of clothing style is linked with one's impression on a person's credibility or even trustworthiness. In contrast, casual wear may imply an opposite meaning compared to formal wear, giving an impression of being unreliable and irresponsible. These are the traits that university students want to avoid when finding a groupmate, as they want groupmates that are responsible and hardworking so they can produce quality results. Having an impression of being untrustworthy towards the casually dressed, students may think of them as potential free riders and reduce the likelihood of inviting them as group members, which may explain our findings that students dressing more casual are less likely to be selected as groupmates in CUHK.
There are a few limitations of the experiment. To start off, the result could be supported by reasons besides casualness. For instance, respondents would prefer to form groups with people who share a similar clothing style, so the responses will differ when the sample group contains fewer CUHK students. This limitation could be eliminated by setting up a new experiment to exclude CUHK students and also make a comparison between these two experiments. Other than that, snowball sampling is used in collecting the data, and the gender of respondents are imbalanced in the experimental group. There are more female participants with a ratio of 2.1 female to 1 male, whereas a controlled group has a rather equal distribution of sex. From our results, the male-controlled variable student B is less likely to be chosen and be regarded as less friendly in the experimental group. While the situation for student A, the female, is exactly the opposite. This can possibly be explained by the fact that students prefer people of the same sex in a group forming situation. This limitation could be resolved by setting up a new experiment with both the control and the experimental groups being the same sex. To sum up, as a CUHK student, although wearing toiti is part of our culture, it seems that students are more likely to be affected by social norms. Therefore, more research can be conducted in the future.